The final item of business is portfolio questions on social security and older people. I remind members that questions 2, 3 and 4 are grouped together. If a member wishes a supplementary other than their own question, they should enter the letter R. If it's a supplementary on the grouped questions, I will take any extra supplementaries after all the questions included in the group. We'll start with question number 1, Tom Mason.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. May I ask the Scottish Government what plans it has to set out a revised social security programme?
Cabinet Secretary Shirley-Ann Somerville.
I updated Parliament in April to advise that due to the coronavirus outbreak, the Social Security programme would no longer be able to deliver to the previously announced timescales. My statement confirmed that the priorities for the programme are supporting the day-to-day operations in Social Security Scotland by, for example, delivering a suite of improvements to the agency's live running systems and delivering new benefits when possible, including the Scottish Child Payment, to allow applications to open before the end of this year. The programme is currently undertaking a programme-wide replanning process, including assessing the capacity and readiness of key stakeholders, such as the DWP and health and social care professionals, to assist with the delivery of disability benefits. It would not be appropriate to set out a revised social security programme until such time as the replanning process has been fully concluded, and I will make announcements regarding individual benefits when it is possible to do so.
Tom Mason.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that answer. I understand the difficulties in formalising a new timetable, but it is important that it is shared with Parliament as soon as practical. I want to ask specifically about the Scottish Child Payment, as this is the Scottish Government's priority in social security. Can the Cabinet Secretary guarantee this will be delivered before the end of the year, and is she confident that all necessary staff and training is in place to get early delivery right?
Cabinet Secretary.
Can I thank Mr Mason for the question and his interest in the Scottish Child Payment. He's quite right to point out that it is indeed the priority for the Government to deliver on this. We do not have the number of staff in the agency that are required to deliver the Scottish Child Payment at the moment, and that is the reason why we've had to delay the introduction of the Scottish Child Payment. Obviously, there's a recruitment freeze at the moment, and we have to ensure that we will begin to end that recruitment freeze when it is possible to do so and following Scottish Government guidance. But I can assure Mr Mason and other members that we are determined to move forward with this as soon as possible, as we absolutely recognise the need to get the Scottish Child Payment delivered as quickly as possible under the circumstances that many people are in.
Question 2, Dean Lockhart.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what support and guidance it is providing to older people during the COVID-19 outbreak.
Minister Christina McKelvey.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer, and thank you to Dean Lockhart for the question. We have provided around £1.7 million to organisations who are directly supporting the needs of older people during this pandemic, including funding for helplines, food distribution and keeping people connected. We have also set up a national helpline linked to the local authorities, which has distributed, and we have also distributed, I think, 2.6 million leaflets signposting people to sources of relevant advice. And there's a number of phone numbers on that leaflet for that advice. Both I and the Cabinet Secretary for Social Security and Older People have met with Age Scotland and the Older People Strategic Action Forum to ensure that we hear the voices and the concerns of older people and act to make sure that the lived experience and the understanding that they have is addressed in the policies and the actions that we take.
Dean Lockhart.
Would like to thank the Minister for that response. As you will understand, the latest Scottish Government guidance can be confusing for some older people to follow, and for obvious reasons the guidance changes quite frequently. Many grandparents and other older people will be planning to help with childcare as parents return to work. So can the Minister issue specific guidance as to what older people can and cannot do in these circumstances?
So that's quite a multifaceted question, and I thank Dean Lockhart for it. Some of the language and the understanding is and can be confusing. One of the very early actions that we took was to consult very early. So many of the pieces of information that's went out, whether it's on social media platforms, whether it's to news releases, and whether indeed it's to the leaflet, we have ensured that stakeholders have been involved in that. So the language is pretty straightforward. One of the things that we learned straight away when people were asked to go to, an online hub, they thought that was a place rather than an online hub. So we became very aware very early that that was a real issue. On the point about grandparents, you'll have seen updated guidance and information from the First Minister yesterday, updated information on care homes and other aspects today, and I suspect we'll see that as we go along. We're taking all of those steps carefully and cautiously. I know that grandparents are desperate to see their grandchildren, and there has been additional information provided there. Part of the concern that we've got, obviously because they are the most at-risk group, is that older age group as well, is how do we tailor the at-risk information and the shielding information to make sure it's a bit more tailored and people can maybe see where they've got some agency and independence, they can get to see their grandchildren. Right now, they can do it with all the socially distanced and practical measures in place to maintain safety, but I suspect grandparents are looking forward to taking back over the childminding and caring duties that they used to have as well. So, updated guidance will be coming on that, and it'll be coming as soon as possible. And as soon as I can share that with Parliament, I will.
Beatrice Wishart.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Like others, I've been contacted by grandparents who are anxious to see their grandchildren on the mainland but are unable to do so because of coronavirus restrictions. In the government's response to the pandemic, has specific consideration been given to the rights of older people in the islands?
Minister Christina McKelvey.
Okay, thank you. I think, Presiding Officer, that maybe Beatrice is supplementary rather than our main question, yes? Yeah, I think so. I think it's absolutely fair enough, to look at some of the issues that we've got around about older people. How do we keep them connected? And we've taken a lot of measures to do that, funding befriending organisations, supporting nationally led helplines like Age Scotland, combating loneliness, which is a big issue that I've been involved in with all of the stakeholders, and providing resources to community levels to lots of organisations. But specifically on islands, we've been taking a lot of information and advice from people and people in rural areas and on the islands, and we want to make sure that we can tailor some of our information to that point. And I believe that there's I'm getting off the top of my head, in Argyll and Bute and let me think about this. So across Argyll and Bute, we have worked to run some pilots, a satellite model for island communities so that we can do that. We've provided a number of testing kits and other information to Shetland, Orkney and the Western Isles to ensure that they're completely connected as well. And ensuring that, that we're collecting the right information and understanding from people in that rural community, but working very closely with those local authorities and the stakeholders, I think, has given us a clear understanding of the needs of islanders. And I'm sure if Beatrice Wishart has got particular issues that she wants to raise with me, I'm really keen to hear that, because that then informs the next steps that we take in the policy that we develop on that. So hopefully she'll get in touch with me on that.
Thank you very much. Question 4, Neil Findlay.
To ask the Scottish Government how it's supporting older people through the COVID-19 pandemic.
Christina McKelvey.
Remarks obviously in the points that I've just made. Support for older people to keep them safe, keep them connected and cared for continues. Fairness and human rights remains central to our approaches in all of these aspects. Investment in the food fund now totals £85 million to ensure support for people who've food access or getting access to food has been affected, many of whom have been older people. This is in addition to the £1.7 million of funding for older people organisations, which around £900,000 has went directly to members of the Older People Strategic Action Forum for projects around advice, support, intergenerational activity, befriending, friendship and, as I said earlier, food. Additionally, we've delivered the Clear Your Head mental health campaign to raise awareness and signpost people to the services to combat social isolation and loneliness, which we know is one of the main harms for older people in the pandemic.
Neil Findlay.
Thanks for that answer. You mentioned the safety and human rights of older people. Given you're the Minister for Older People, can I ask, were you consulted on the policy of discharging 1,300 older people from hospitals to care homes untested? And if you were consulted, what did you say?
Christina McKelvey.
Neil Findlay will know that those health decisions are taken by my colleagues in health, and there's many aspects across the whole of government where I intervene and support and advise, and that includes my equalities and human rights officials working very closely with health officials to ensure that all of the work that we do has human rights and equalities at its heart. One of the main aspects of that is to mainstream equalities and human rights, and one of the key pieces of work alongside that is the equality and human rights impact assessments, which have been done and have been published thus far. And I would direct Neil Findlay to those to see the work where we have intervened and advised on these policies.
Thank you very much. Question number 5, John Mason.
Thank you. To ask the Scottish Government what the extent will be of the remit of the Advisory Board on Social Renewal.
Cabinet Secretary Shirley-Ann Somerville.
The Social Renewal Advisory Board has been tasked with developing new policy proposals at pace to help renew Scotland, putting equality, social justice and human rights at the heart of our recovery. It will learn from and build on the positive policy and practice shifts seen during our response to COVID-19. The board will scrutinise the work of a series of policy circles, each tasked to work on recommendations and solutions on key issues, for example, food and housing. At the heart of the process will be meaningful, effective engagement with people with lived experience.
John Mason.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that answer. Can she tell me, will the board specifically consider the BAME community and inequality? Because there is a feeling that COVID-19 has exacerbated what were already inequalities around race.
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, Mr Mason does raise a very, very important point, and we know that COVID-19 impacts unequally on different communities, and this is a central recognition that will be part of the work of the board. We require to have coordinated cross-government action on this and many other issues. One of the principles of the board is to work with equality and human rights embedded throughout, and an integral part of that will of course be the work that we do with Black and minority ethnic communities to seek to find ways to ensure that we see genuine change following from this pandemic. There's also specific work going on to understand and address the impact of COVID-19 on minority ethnic communities. This includes work around improving the data on COVID and ethnicity, providing advice on risk assessment for minority ethnic people in the workplace, and ensuring that tailored public health messaging is reached in our diverse communities. This work is directed by the COVID and Ethnicity Expert Reference Group and is informed by direct contact with minority ethnic communities and the organisations that support them.
Thank you very much. Question number 6, Bob Doris.
Thank you. The Scottish Government how devolved social security benefits are providing assistance during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Cabinet Secretary Shirley-Ann Somerville.
Social Security Scotland has rapidly changed its working practices to enable agency staff to continue to deliver Carers Allowance Supplement, Young Carers Grant, the Best Start Grant payments, the Best Start Foods payments and funeral support payment for people on low income benefits. Payments of the Coronavirus Carers Allowance Supplement will begin later this week to carers in receipt of carers allowance. This investment of £19.2 million will provide an extra £230 to around 83,000 of Scotland's lowest income carers. At the same time, the Social Security Programme has prioritised its remaining resources to support delivery of the Scottish Child Payment as soon as we can. This will put money directly into the pockets of families who may struggle with the impact of COVID-19 for months to come.
Bob Doris.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that answer. A recent report from the IPPR found that 1.1 million people more are facing poverty at the end of 2020 as a result of the coronavirus pandemic, but increases in child poverty could be entirely prevented by removing the 2-child limit and the benefit cap. Does the Cabinet Secretary therefore agree that the Chancellor must include these measures as part of his economic stimulus package this summer in order to prevent more families and children being plunged into poverty?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, I do welcome the IPPR's report and agree with Bob Doris that urgent action is required to prevent the flaws within the UK government's benefit system from deepening the social and economic harm being felt from COVID-19. I would urge the Chancellor to include these measures as part of the economic recovery. I've written to the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions on multiple occasions since the start of the COVID-19 outbreak, calling on her to make universal credit more responsive to the needs of people, and that has particularly included a call to make fundamental changes to the benefit system by removing the 2-child limit and the benefit cap. As Bob Doris quite rightly points out, changes such as these would ensure that the increases that are forecasted for child poverty could be entirely prevented.
Thank you very much. Question 7 has been withdrawn, so we now come to question 8. Claire Adamson.
To ask the Scottish Government what action it is taking to ensure the outbreak of COVID-19 does not disproportionately impact women.
Minister Christina McKelvey.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. This pandemic, as we know, is affecting all of us, but there are some groups who are harder hit by the labour market disruption, and that includes women, and women who are more likely to be working in shut down sectors such as catering or retail. Our ambition for Scotland's recovery is to set out in the core principles of our framework for decision making. It's recognised that the harms caused by the pandemic do not impact everyone equally, and that we must work to advance equality and human rights in our response. We will ensure that the work we do on recovery and renewal embeds a gendered analysis into our decisions and actions so that we can mitigate all of those impacts on women.
Claire Adamson.
And thank you to the Minister for her answer. Given that the majority of caring and childhood responsibilities remain with women, what can the Scottish Government do to persuade employers to support women who may suffer disproportionately disruption to their employment because of caring and childcare commitments as we ease lockdown restrictions and move towards a return to school?
Christina McCarthy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Presiding Officer. It's an incredibly important question. As the recovery process progresses, equalities, fair work and wellbeing will remain at the heart of our approach, while we focus all of our focus remains on controlling and suppressing the virus during phase 2 and into phase 3. There is a role for both Scottish Government and employers in mitigating the impact of control measures on women. We, along with the Hunter Foundation, are providing funding of £175,000 to Flexibility Works to support and promote the development of flexible and family-friendly workplaces. This includes offering vital advice and support to businesses and organisations on flexible working to respond to the COVID-19 crisis. During phase 2, the Scottish Government and local authorities continue to provide targeted support for childcare to children of key workers and for children the local authority recognises being maybe more vulnerable or at risk during this time. The option to form an extended household, no doubt welcomed by many as part of phase 2 of recovery, will offer more support for childcare and the wellbeing of single parent families. We have also announced an indicative date of the 15th of July for all other childcare settings to reopen, including early learning childcare and out of school care, I think welcomed by many parents and grandparents the nation over.
Thank you very much, Minister, and that concludes portfolio questions on social security and older people. I now close this meeting of Parliament.